So, good morning, everyone. Back to the class on tribology for today's second hour class on Saturday, right? So, in the last session, that was our first session related to the module one, where we studied about what is the historical background related to tribology, what is the importance of the subject, what is the need to study the subject, and what does tribology exactly mean. And we also discussed some examples and applications related to tribology, where and when the tribology applications are related to. So today now we have to proceed further with the rest part of the module. So I just share my screen again. So now today we are supposed to deal with the part of lubricants. Hope the slides are visible, guys. Hello. Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, it's
Yeah,
visible.
thank you. So you have studied already about lubricants in your previous semesters. So can you tell me in just what you mean by a lubricant? Basically, at least one person to know what you have studied on lubricants. Why lubricant is needed and what do you mean by a lubricant? How it is different from any other forms of fluid? Anyone in the class? Kindly reply. Should I call name? Ishant? You're there? No answer. You have studied already. Anyone in the class, please? Gautam? You should answer. Yes, I need at least one answer. Then I'll proceed. Kindly. What do you know about the word lubricant? From here onwards, for the question also we should assign marks. Then only you people will answer. Yeah, tell me.
Ma'am, a lubricant is a fluid it's basically a fluid which is used to reduce friction and reduce heat loss.
I agree. How it is different from other types of fluids?
Mm.
There are different types of fluids available, right? How it is bifurcated into the classification of lubrication. You have studied fluid mechanics also. You have studied the flow of fluid with respect to pressure, variation, everything when it is at state of rest and when it is at state of motion. How it is different from the normal fluid what you have analyzed at static and dynamic condition. When a fluid can move fast and when it cannot move.
Ma'am, I think it's based on viscosity.
Yes. So mainly depending upon the viscosity of the fluid, you can bifurcate whether it is like a regular fluid or an fluid which could be used for reducing the wear and friction. So usually the fluid which has little bit higher viscosity will be termed to be into the grade of lubricants. Again in lubricants we have different variants what we have to deal about. So that was a difference I just expected from your end in the beginning. So as I am showing you in the slide, a lubricant will usually have some amount of viscosity. So depending upon the viscosity level, you can grade the lubricants. Okay. So in the meantime, it should be also able to have some mobility in it. If the viscosity is too high, so it will be very difficult for it to move even a single step forward. Okay, so the viscosity level should be in such a way that the lubricants are able to move the minimum requirement which is needed, so that it helps in removing the heat and overcome any losses associated either with drag or power loss. So this is the main application of using lubricants in any mechanical system where contacting picture comes into picture. Along with that, the lubricant what you are using should be always stable under different variants of stresses. It could be related to thermal stress, your oxidation stress. Sometimes thermal stress comes when it is moving at a higher speed for a longer period of time. So those are associated with the thermal stress. Sometimes oxidation comes into picture when you have the two contacting surfaces rubbing and some chemical reaction takes place with respect to the material which is coming in contact. So any type of chemical reaction with respect to surface engineering also comes into picture here. So any kind of oxidation related stresses or sometimes some sudden volatility can come into picture related to the degradation of the material property. So it should be able to overcome all these type of issues. Okay, and it should have a very good mechanical stability. So these are the factors which an lubricant should be able to overcome, which comes into picture when two contacting components are moving. Okay, so this is about just a background about why lubrication is needed and which fluids are called to be as the lubricants. After that, you know the advantages of lubrications. No need for me to explain in depth. Mainly, it is used to reduce the friction and wear. Okay, the second thing is it always helps in reducing some instant failures which can occur all of a sudden that cannot be predicted. So, even it helps in overcoming some instant failures and also the failures which are caused due to fatigue. So fatigue type of failures also it helps in overcoming, and also surface related failures, all these things. And finally the main thing is the friction, wear and the stress which usually comes on the instant failure which we cannot predict. Sometimes it might happen. Along with that, the fatigue and the surface failure depends upon the material what you are selecting. So when a material get fatigued due to the continuous run or whatever might be the reaction related to fatigue it is at reaching. Okay, so again depending upon the material what you have selected, these two will keep on varying, right? So these are the things in which lubricants could be used to reduce the factors as mentioned here in the slide. So then you should know something about the types of lubricants or the classification of lubricants. So you have some naturally occurring lubricants also which could be used. Okay, so mainly first part what we are dealing about is under natural organic based type of lubricants. So this basically include the animal fat, okay, the whale oil, the shark oil, and also the vegetable oils. These are not man-made. So these are which in emergence in nature. Okay, so these are natural organics which are widely available. So in animal fats are naturally occurring as I told you. So this is formed by the combination of long chain organic acids with alcohols. So this is how the animal fat has been segregated. So you have heard about castor oil, rapeseed oil, etc. These all are associated under vegetable oil category. So through this, the castor oil, the rapeseed oils are extracted. So these oil basically helps to reduce the oxidation and the stability, okay, within the mineral oils. Means by using these oils you can overcome the oxidation stresses and maintain a stability when the movement is been carrying on. So in this type of, based on the requirement, you can select the type of lubricants what you need. Okay, so here what happens is they have a tendency to break down to give sticky deposits, and as a result it is necessary to refine some of the mineral oils which are in existence in nature. So we usually do the refining of many petroleum products. Okay, so these can be obtained for a range of viscosities. So you can get different classifications of the petroleum products with respect to the range of viscosity what you need. So these chemical compounds are basically made up of mineral oils, and they are associated with high amount of hydrocarbons. So based on the level of hydrocarbons, this could be defined into three sections. One is paraffins, the second one is the naphthalines, and the third one is the aromatics. In paraffins, the hydrocarbons which are there are of open chain type. So if you have the mineral oil associated with only the functional group of open chain hydrocarbons, then you make it to fall under paraffins. If it is of closed ring type of hydrocarbons, you put into the category of naphthalines. If it is just the hydrocarbons without any open ring or open ring, closed ring are associated with the functional group. So if it is associated with only hydrocarbons, then it falls into the category of aromatics. Okay, so here the aromatics, the amount of usage of this is of very small, but still it plays a vital role in boundary lubrication part. Okay, so you have to be able to decide which type of lubricant you need based on for which application you are opting for. And usually the oil what we were terming is basically comes into the category of paraffinic oil or the naphthalene oil. So it depends upon the majority percentage of the paraffins or naphthalene in it. What is the percentage of paraffins in it, or what is the percentage of naphthalene in it? Based on the percentage, you can term what is the percentage affinity towards the section what we put on into the paraffins. Okay, again the affinity here depends upon how many open chain hydrocarbons are there. So it goes in depth into chemical aspect. For you, no need to dig so much into. You just be knowing the classifications of paraffins, naphthalenes and aromatics. Okay, so this aromatic is usually used in very small percentage, but it is the actual material which plays a vital role in boundary type of lubrications. And the third one is the mineral oil. So this can be used up to a maximum temperature of 200 degrees Celsius, whereas animal and vegetable oils could be used for the temperature even until 1200 degrees Celsius. So both will perform the same task, but it depends upon to what temperature level you want to use. So depending upon whether you want to use at room temperature, yeah, the temperature until 200 degrees Celsius or above, you can select which type of oil you need, whether it is animal oil, yeah, vegetable oil. But both these kind of oil falls into the category of mineral oils only. So next is synthetic organic. Nowadays you have heard about the organic materials. So many, even the agricultural products are grown in organic manner. Similarly, you have organic graded synthetic lubricants. So these synthetic organics have evolved due to some reason. So it is due to the result of the requirement of the lubricants to be used at extreme temperature, pressure and humidity. I told you the restriction. The mineral oils could be used only until 200 degree, vegetable oils until 1200 degrees Celsius. But if you have some sophisticated equipment which has to be run continuously for n number of months, yeah, it cannot be years, a number of months. So it needs a lubricant which is able to reduce the wear and friction at extreme temperature conditions. Sometimes the pressure can also be more. Sometimes you might have kept the equipment where you have extreme humidity cases also. So you should be able to get a lubricant which can overcome all these extremities. So under this requirement, the synthetic organics plays an vital role. Okay. So these type of synthetic hydrocarbons are made up of diesters, chlorofluorocarbons, fatty acids. Okay, so these are the organic materials which are being used in developing the synthetic graded lubricants, which could be used at extreme conditions. So then you should know in that the hydrocarbons, again the synthetic hydrocarbons, you have the regular hydrocarbons which we discussed with oil, aromatics, right, and paraffins. Similarly, in synthetic organic you have the hydrocarbons which are synthesized in an organic manner. So you have to see how the synthetic hydrocarbons are prepared. So these are prepared by an polymerization process. So synthetic hydrocarbons are prepared by polymerization process, which is a parameter, which is a polymer which has been used. It is a monomer, sorry. So which monomer is being used is it is an olefin monomer. So they use a specific category of olefin monomers in order to synthesize this hydrocarbons by polymerization process. So by synthesizing these hydrocarbons, it helps to prepare an lubricant with optimized viscosity, temperature, stability, and volatile properties associated with it. So these are all the parameters which vary when a lubricant is used. So you have to have constraint like this lubricant can be used until this particular temperature, suppose 200 degrees Celsius or 400 degrees Celsius, whatever, and how stable the given lubricant is and how volatile the lubricant is. Okay, so here if you synthesize a hydrocarbon using a synthetic organic route for preparation, you can fine tune the material composition in such a way that all the parameters associated with lubricant will be well defined in optimized way. So this is the what we call the reason why the hydrocarbons are synthesized in organic way, so that you won't be having many variations in the properties of the lubricant. You can get an consistent and optimized type of property of the lubricant as per the requirement. Right. So the synthetic organic lubricants could be made by, I told, hydrocarbons, chlorofluorocarbons also. So how it is being developed by using chlorofluorocarbons? So chlorofluorocarbons are usually chemically inert in nature, and they have a very good thermal and oxidation stability in it, embedded within it. So no need to fine tune in having excellent thermal and oxidation stability because it is inbuilt within the chlorofluorocarbons, right? But apart from this, the chlorofluorocarbons also suffers from some drawbacks. What are it? It has poor viscosity, temperature variant, stability, and volatile properties. Means it has poor viscosity, even the temperature stability is not good enough, and also the volatile properties of it keep on varying. Right? So these are the drawbacks. So if you're using chlorofluorocarbons, right, so then you should be able to overcome these drawbacks, right? Then only it will be more better suitable to use, or else it is always preferable to go with synthetic type of hydrocarbons, so which is well established in all its parameters in an optimized way. So next category of lubricants is grease. You have heard about the word grease already, you have studied, right? So even grease are nothing but the oils that are thickened with solids to form semi-fluid products. You cannot claim grease as a fully fluid product, right? So it is like in semi-fluid because it is neither solid or fluid. It is in a state of midway, and hence we call this type of a product into semi-fluid classification, right? So the type of thickener determines the characteristics of grease. Even here the thickness of the grease matters a lot. So depending upon the thickness of the grease, even its characteristics keeps on changing. So you can use the grease based on the requirement for what application you are using this lubricant. Fine, blindly you cannot use grease everywhere. So these grease are usually preferred to liquid lubricants in case only when the application of continuous supply of lubricant is not needed. Remember, when there is a need of lubricant spot by spot, drop by drop at a certain interval of time regularly, right? At that time you can just use grease. If you need a continuous flow of lubricant, then using grease is not preferable because it is a semi-fluid and it cannot keep on moving and forming an uniform lubricant layer between the moving components, because its viscosity will be very high as it is a semi-fluid kind of product. So this is the thing what I told. So whenever it is needed to use in between, at that time it is better to use or go with grease, or else you can use an regular lubricant, okay, to use it continuously. So next is they are very common in rolling element bearings as the lubricating arrangement is very simple. So whenever like you need the lubricant very rarely, and when your running component is of simple type of moving component and there is no complexity and you are not moving that component for a longer period of time, at that time you can go up with the grease. If it is a complex huge component, rolling component which has to be moved for a long period of time, then it is not preferable to apply grease as an lubricant. And apart from that, you should know one more category of the lubricant, what we call it as solid lubricant. So grease was in semi-solid type, what we studied. And then you should know what you mean by a solid type of lubricant. So you have heard about the word graphite, molybdenum, disulfate. So these are commonly used solid lubricants. So when you have a lubricant and even a semi-fluid type lubricant also, what is the need for using a solid type of lubricant? So that you have to think about. Okay, so usually these are used when bearing system is required to be operated at a very high temperature or at extremely low pressure. Okay, so here what happens is in this type of cases, the normal lubricants which are there in now today's market will be unsuitable because some of the lubricant cannot be used at very low pressure or at very high temperature. At that time, we will usually prefer solid type of lubricant. Okay, because normal fluid liquid lubricants will not be having the stability which is needed at high temperature. I've told you about the stability which varies with respect to high temperature. That is the thermal stability and the oxidation stability. Okay, thermal or the oxidation stability. So to overcome the drawback of the normal lubricants which cannot be used at high temperature, we go up with some type of solid lubricants such as graphite, yeah, molybdenum disulfate. So these are the commonly used solid lubricants until now. So this were the classifications of lubricants which are naturally available and some lubricants made by man. So you should be able to classify and tell which type of lubricants are used for which type of applications. And then comes you need to know about what are the requirements for lubricants. So the main thing one you have to understand is the main requirement for lubricants are they are able to keep surface separate under all loads. So this is very much important. So when you have a two components rolling, there will be some clearance between the two components which will be rolling. Why? Because in order to overcome the friction and wear, so you apply usually the lubricant in between these two so that it forms a pakka proper lubricant film between the clearance so that it goes on smoothly and there will be no harm across the surface which is in contact while moving. So this type of capability should go on and on well successfully for all type of loads, all type of temperatures and all type of speed with which the component is moving. So if this is to be done, then there is a need for the lubricants because it helps in minimizing our friction and wear to the extreme condition. So you have to select a lubricant in such a way that irrespective of the load applied, irrespective of the temperature and irrespective of the speed with which it's moving, it will minimize the friction and wear to the negligible value, right? And secondly, when the components are moving, it should act as a cooling fluid. Why? So when the component is moving for a longer period of time, the heat is produced continuously. If this heat is not removed, right, so it will be very dangerous for the component, and hence in order to reduce the heat you should use a lubricant. Why heat is produced? Again, heat is indirectly proportional to the amount of friction which is coming across in the moving component. So basically it also acts as a cooling agent in order to reduce the heat which has been induced due to the friction. And if the friction is reduced, obviously the heat will be reduced, and the material will be the component will be in the normal temperature. Then you can say that the moving component is cooled, or it is at regular temperature, so there is no effect of heat produced while revolving even for a longer period of time. Thirdly, remain advocately stable in order to guarantee constant behavior over the forecasted useful life. See, every machine will be having certain life period, right? So if you do a proper maintenance of that equipment, right? If you calibrate that equipment regularly, and if you lubricate that equipment regularly while using, even in maintenance, sometimes the surface of some component has to be lubricated, or else it can catch the moisture and some corrosion also can takes place. So if all these things happen, the life of a particular product gets reduced. So in order to maintain the life cycle of a product, it is very essential that the lubrication plays a vital role. Even how reliable the product is also related indirectly to the lubricant. If it is maintained well, even lubrication is necessary. So you using maintenance also you will use lubricant, even during operation also you will use lubricant, right? So it helps in having a proper maintenance and having a good reliability on it until its entire tenure of the life cycle. Okay, so this is what you have to understand. And next, basically, it protects the surface from the attack of aggressive products formed during the operations. So if you're using the lubricants and it is operating at higher speed and you're developing some products by performing some operations, so some scrap materials usually comes out while you create some part on the given material. So if you use this lubricant, any aggressive attack of this waste material hitting into the machine could be overcome because it is lubricated, so it won't cause any harm for the surface of the component which it is moving. Okay, so this is one of the requirement. And lastly, almost every relative moving component in an assembly requires lubricant, that you know. Without any lubricant, it is difficult to make the components move relatively to each other. So these are the main requirements for the need or the use of lubricant. But it is very essential to select a proper lubricant also. With the proper lubricant, even the grade of the lubricant plays a vital role. So if you select a proper grade and type of lubricant for a particular type of application, all the requirements of the lubricant could be achieved. If all the requirements of the lubricants are satisfied, then the component could be used for its life cycle as defined before. So every machine comes out with a particular lifespan. So if all these things are carried out properly, you can use that equipment for that entire life period, and you can rely on that equipment for that entire life period and get the useful work done, okay, without any errors. Okay, these are the few things what you have to keep in mind. So some
Ma'am,
of them are here. Yeah, hello.
ma'am, the quiz that you have posted is descriptive type.
Yeah, it is just a small. I told you to answer later, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Don't worry, the quiz is like very short answers. I have just asked general questions, what we have discussed already in the last class. It's related to the historical background of tribology, when it was invented, like that kind of thing. So it doesn't need more amount of explanation. Just in two sentences, you can able to type it, and each carries 1 marks, and finally it is for 5 marks. That's it. Okay.
Ma'am,
Okay.
will all these quizzes be subjective?
Can you repeat it again?
Will all the quizzes be subjective?
Yeah, yeah. It could be quiz type, it could be
Quiz
subjective
is
type.
objective, no, ma'am.
Yeah, yes, quiz is objective. You will be having four choices in it. I'm not asking you a descriptive question. Even though it is subjective, it is not descriptive. It is just one or two line answers. You can write in your own sentences. That was related to the previous class. Okay, and the previous class videos also have shared, and the syllabus with the concept of tribology, what we dealt, that also have shared. If you have listened in the class, you can type it within 5 minutes, not more than that. It is not at all a descriptive of a paragraph type of thing. So please don't worry.
Ma'am, you will be correcting everyone's.
Yeah, Roshan.
Ma'am, you will be correcting paper for everyone. Ma'am, it will be headache for you.
No, no, no. It is not a headache to me. I am happy to do it. So you please
Ma'am,
don't worry.
ma'am, every day,
Hello.
every day, we have to give that type of quiz.
After every class you have to answer some questions. Since the first module was very general type of, the first class what we dealt was generic, related to the historical background, needs and requirements of lubricant, I have just given a subjective type which is of one line answers only. So next class I may give you like an objective type where you will be having four answers, in that you will select one. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Any problem in answering these questions? These are very simple questions. Hello.
No, ma'am, no problem.
Okay. So next time we will just think about objective type of thing. So let there be an combination of both. Even though it is quiz or subjective, I'm just giving you the questions which can be assigned only for 1 marks, not more than that. So it won't be a descriptive of a paragraph type at all. So please don't think in that way. You just answer the question, each carrying 1 marks for 5 full questions. So next is requirements for lubricant. Again, the same thing we are continuing. Even when you have a lock and key, on turning the key, the bolt slides into a notch on the door frame. So if you force, a certain force is required to turn the key. Sometimes it might be jerked and you need to apply more pressure in order to release the key. So in some cases, what happens is, if it is not of a good quality, it can get rusted due to the external moisture condition, yeah, humidity, or whatever. So it's always necessary to lubricate the moving parts on turning the lock and key also across the notch, right? So sometimes in windows, in most of the cars, use linkages to lift the window glasses. Okay, so a small electric motor, how you can see here, is attached to a worm gear to lift the windows. So in order to get the smooth movement of this worm gear movement, so you need some amount of lubrication. So these are just examples to claim like why lubricant is required. And one more thing what you have to keep in mind is, lubricants are also classified as Newtonian and non-Newtonian fluid. Okay, so what happens in Newtonian and what happens in Newtonian fluids? Anyone? You have learned this in your fluid mechanics. What's the difference between Newtonian and non-Newtonian fluids?
Ma'am, in Newtonian fluid, Newton's law is linear, and in non-Newtonian fluids, Newton's law is non-linear.
I agree. So what happens to the viscosity in those aspects then? Any guesses? In case of Newtonian fluid, the viscosity remains same. It does not change with respect to any type of force you apply on it. But whereas in case of non-Newtonian fluid, the viscosity can be changed if you apply a little bit of more force on it. So this is the difference between an Newtonian and non-Newtonian fluid to our subject related to the topic lubricant. I'm not going much into fluid mechanics, just relating the concept into the lubricant. So related to the lubricant, we are free to speak about the viscosity. So the differences in Newtonian, the viscosity remains same, and in non-Newtonian fluids, if you apply a little bit of more force, the viscosity of an lubricant can vary. Okay, so this classification is on the basis of relation between the shear stress and the shear strain rate, how you get, okay, between an cylinder liner and the ring. So this is just an example to classify. So these were some of the examples which were related to the lubricants and its requirements. So this is just an example here how the lubricant is being used between the cylinder and the cylinder liner and the rings. Okay, so here you can see the piston cylinder, the piston rod here arranged, right? So you have a lubricant injection hole through which the lubricant can be injected. Fine. So these are the piston rings and these are the piston rods. So you will be applying the lubricant or you will be injecting the lubricant through the hole provided. So what is the need for applying lubricant in this type of design is the lubricant must form a thin film to separate the surface. So when the cylinder liner and the rings is in movement, I told you already the application of lubricant is to create a film so that it separates the moving surface and reduce the friction between the metal to metal contact or any type of contacting surface in between. And apart from that, the second requirement is it needs to adhere to the surface properly. Okay, so if the applied lubricant is not adhering to the surface at all, it will not be able to fit a lubricant film in between two. So it is necessary that you make a selection of a proper lubricant which adheres across the surface. The third requirement is it must neutralize the corrosive products of combustion. Okay, so when you apply the lubricant oil, it is in movement. If any combustion takes place with the release of some oxides during the movement, so the corrosive products which is released during the combustion should be neutralized. Means the effect of these corrosive products should be nullified. It should not affect in any way to the moving components. So that should also be taken care by the lubricant film. So this is one of the property of the lubricant which has to be there. And lastly, it should withstand the high temperature inside the cylinder, which come into existence when there is a movement of the cylinder with the rings. So these are the piston rings. So while movement along with the combustion gas, a large amount of heat will be generated inside the cylinder. So it should be able to withstand that high temperature. I told you the lubricants which can be used in room temperature until 200 and even above 200 degrees Celsius at extreme temperature and pressure. So based on the requirement, you should be able to inject the lubricant such that it makes a proper film of it and overcome all the constraints and work smoothly, getting the required results. So this is one more example here. You have a shaft movement. So across it, a lubricant or oil is being applied. So the effect of the pressure and the oil is being shown, and relatedly and profile is being generated. So what's happening here is the lubricant should support heavy shaft and loads. If you are using a heavy shaft with large amount of load bearing capacity, you should use a lubricant which should support this kind of heavy load operating conditions. Secondly, lubricant should avoid the contact stresses. So the contact stresses varies with respect to the movement of the shaft. So it could be less at some position, it could be more at some position. So the oil film pressure profile which has been traced shows how the pressure is varying across the shaft movement, and this is the layer of the lubricant film which has been formed. Okay. So lubricant should have ability to dampen the vibrations. When the shaft is rotating for an larger period of time under heavy high loading conditions, the vibrations will be more. So the the lubricant what you are using should be able to reduce the damping behavior which come across during any type of vibrations. So usually vibrations comes when it is being operated at very high load conditions. Okay, so even in that case, the lubricant what you select should be able to act a proper film with damping reduction capabilities also, to reduce the contact stresses and to also support the shaft which is been rotating with respect to the load applied on it. So these are some examples where lubricant plays an vital role. So next class I will deal with the properties of the lubricant in depth with some derivations also. So now I just want to inform you what are the main properties of the lubricant. So some of the main properties of the lubricant are viscosity, viscosity index, pour point and flash point, relative density, specific heat and thermal conductivity, acidity and alkalinity, oxidation stability, demulsibility and foamability. So what do you mean by all these properties of the lubricants? We will be studying in the next class. Now it is 10:15. It is the time for you people to take the quiz. Okay, so please attend the quiz. I will be online in the Google Meet. After you take the quiz, I will be taking the attendance in last 10 minutes. Now it is 10:15. You have time to take the quiz until 10:25. After completion of the quiz, I will be waiting here and then you will come for the attendance. So you can start doing your quiz right now. But be online in the meet, don't go away from it. Open your go into the Google Classroom. If anyone have not signed in, please sign it immediately. The subject code has been also been mentioned in the WhatsApp group for our course Tribology. So log in and respond for the quiz. At 10:25 exactly, I'll be taking the attendance. I can see the responses here once you do. So please start. Did you people start taking the quiz? Don't log out. Be here.
I'm a man on my soul.
So after taking the attendance, Akhil, Anil Kumar,
Present, ma'am.
Ankesh, Ankesh Aman, if you're not able to reply, kindly type yes ma'am in the chat. Ankesh Aman, Gautam Krishna,
Yes, ma'am.
Balaji,
Yes, ma'am.
Beldar Muhammad Akram,
Yes, ma'am.
Chaitanya,
Yes, ma'am.
Chetan Kumar, Chetan respond. Chetan is absent then. Dhyanesh, Ishant, Ishant, Dhyanesh is there.
Yes, ma'am.
Ishant,
Ma'am, Ishant in the chat box.
okay. Gunsagar, Gautam present.
Gautam present. Gautam present. Gautam present.
Kanishka Reddy,
Yes, ma'am.
Himanka,
Yes, ma'am.
Harshit,
Yes, ma'am.
Gautam Sai,
Yes, ma'am.
Kunal Raj,
Present, ma'am.
Meghanatha,
Present, ma'am.
Mohammad Ayan, Mohammad Junaid, both Mohammad is okay. Shri Prasad,
Yes, ma'am.
Niharika, you have responded. Nihar, Nikhil, okay. Nirab respond, okay. Prajwal,
Yes, ma'am.
Ranveer Singh,
Present, ma'am.
Rishabh Pandey, okay. Roshan,
Yes, ma'am.
Suman Sagar,
Yes, ma'am.
Sagar Datta,
Yes, ma'am.
Sagar GB,
Present, ma'am.
Sanjay Raghav, Sanjay respond, Shiv Krishna,
Present, ma'am.
okay. Shiv Pavan, Shobit,
Present, ma'am.
Siddharth,
What's that, ma'am?
Srinivaslu,
Present, ma'am.
Subramanya,
Present, ma'am.
Tirumani Setti Rohan,
Present, ma'am.
Ulas, okay. Vidyan Prakash,
Present, ma'am.
Vivian Varun,
Present, ma'am.
okay, both of you are present. Pawan,
Present, ma'am.
all of you have responded for the Google form.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
I can see
ma'am.
responses only 32. What about the others? Here on the list, there are 45 students. Out of 45, I can see only 33 students responded.
Excuse
See,
me.
Ma'am, you didn't call my name.
Nihar, I called you, you didn't respond.
Yes, ma'am.
No, ma'am. Prajwal.
Issue, ma'am.
Did you got awake now or you were in the class
Ma'am,
totally?
there are two Prajwals, ma'am. You
I was
called
in the
out only
class.
one
Ma'am,
Prajwal,
there are two
ma'am.
Prajwals, ma'am.
Yes,
Prajwal
ma'am.
Okay,
and
Call
Prajwal
me.
but
Okay, whom did I not call then? Which
Ma'am,
Prajwal?
Prajwal, but, ma'am, but.
Okay. Sorry for the confusion. Nihar, okay, you are present.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
even Siddharth, there are two Siddharths, ma'am.
There are two Siddharths also. In every class whom I take the class, there will be always Siddharths. Here also it is two Siddharths. Fine. Who is one more Siddharth?
I am Siddharth Sridhar, ma'am. Siddharth Shankar.
Okay. Fine. So how are you people taking all the sessions regularly, attentively?
Yes, ma'am.
So see that you attend all the classes, not only my subject, all the classes attentively. It will be very helpful for you to answer the quizzes as well as to prepare yourself
Ma'am, why are you not
for
giving
the
MCQs, ma'am?
internals.
Other subject teachers are giving us MCQs, ma'am.
Yes, even I do give MCQs. Why I gave certain type of subjective is it was just some brief historical background, nothing much what we have dealt about in technically into module 1. It was not completed. It was only an initial part. So I thought let me just give a subjective. From next class
Ma'am, we
onwards, don't
prefer
worry.
MCQs, ma'am, please, ma'am.
Don't worry, from next class I'll give you MCQs only. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, because you need to select the answer. So you don't want to write your own answer and give some work to your mind, basically, right?
Ma'am, it's
If I'm
hard to
right.
type, ma'am. We have fat fingers and our phone keyboard doesn't work well, means you only tell, ma'am. Typing and phone is really hard that way, ma'am.
Okay, if you don't have the proper supporting this one gadget for the class, then it will be a problem. If that is the case, no problem. From next class, it is only quiz type only. Only the first session, I thought, let me give some short answers. That's all. So you'll be getting quiz only. Don't worry for that. And try to use laptops, yeah, computers. That will be little bit convenient for you if it is possible from your end. Okay. Any other doubts? Have you
No,
people
ma'am.
gone through the syllabus? You do try to extract some ebooks on tribology as per the syllabus given in VTU. You should do that little groundwork for all the subjects. Okay. Fine. If anyone have not written your name and USN still in the chat room, kindly do type on. And the responses is still 38. I need to get 44. Those who haven't responded for the questions, kindly please do it at the earliest. If anyone have not written your name and USN, please add on to the chat room quickly.